Hey guys, Sean here, and I have Chris Duane, the Silver Shield, back on the line. Chris, welcome back. It's been too long.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and hopefully we can mix it up today. And when our guard is down and we're actually just talking, I think those are one of the best conversations.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what this can be, because this doesn't have to be structured. You know, one of the things we had joked back and forth on an exchange of personal messages or emails there on my website, SGT Report, and it was in regards to this David Wilcock article. He's got the website there, Divine Cosmos, and the name of the article, if people want to look this up quick and look at the comments, is Major Event, quote, liens filed against all 12 Federal Reserve banks, claims David Wilcock. And, you know, I sort of feel like the door was opened up a crack pertaining to the potential legitimacy of some of these claims, Chris, when Zero Hedge linked through to David Wilcock's long article about the lawsuit and all of that stuff, and Zero Hedge linked to that when those, do you remember when the bonds were discovered, like $6 or $7 trillion in bonds in Federal Reserve crates?
The Italian ones from 4 years ago?
The recent ones in the Chicago Federal Reserve crates. Yeah, and I just think that's such a compelling story. Is it a misdirect? Maybe, but when Zero Hedge went after it, it certainly opened it up in my eyes as something that's fair game for all of us to talk about, because I don't think any of these issues should be off limits. But I think to your point, and I bet you're about to make it, we need to be careful from whom we get our information, and I understand that too.
Listen, Sean, when I first started going down this path of truth and trying to figure out how this world works, I came up with a little saying that helped me sort through and filter through all this information, and it is, listen to all, follow none, and walk your own path the best that you can. And I spent, there wasn't a subject I didn't go into. I mean, I looked into the whole, the 322 and, the Illuminati and, these Babylon mystery religions and, reptilian people. There was nothing I didn't look at. But it gets to a point where, at some point, I think that when you're led down that path, nothing good comes of it. One, if there are these crazy, satanic guys out there who do have, these weird religions and sacrifice and all that other stuff, so what? Okay? So what that they can do all that stuff? It's no different than the voodoo. They don't have any special power over you. And I think when you start looking for boogeyman, it's subconsciously a way of taking away the responsibility for your actions and blaming somebody else. And I think that at some point, if you go down all these paths, you'll see that, I studied the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and they own the central banks. Yeah, they are powerful people. But you know what? They didn't force you to go into student debt, credit card debt, mortgage debt, take a loan, go buy another house. They didn't force you to go join their military. They don't force you to watch the propaganda on the news. They don't force you to eat the factory food. You do that. And I get my blood pumping about these Wilcock and Fulford and Drake and all these other guys out there who keep putting all these little mystery, men, like they have special access to something. Trust me, folks, if these guys are that powerful and they control everything, they're not going to just leak this information to some, guy with a blog. It's just not going to happen. And so what? At the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself, and I want to get people out of the murky world that never results in anything and into the real physical world and taking control of themselves. And that's why, and I'm not one to go onto other people's blogs and leave comments, but I know you well enough, and I know you know me well enough to take that. Yep.
Oh, sure. No, and I get it. And you were suggesting that no lawsuit, no Ron Paul, no ninjas, no benevolent bankers are coming to save you. And I get that. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But also I was trying to support your position really with my response, which is, yes, we need to find the solution from within. We all do, and we all need to reject this criminal system, and I agree with that. But the choice between love and fear, as Bill Hicks suggested, can be made. You can embrace the love and throw away the fear, and then by virtue, take for instance the Ron Paul revolution. These are hundreds of thousands, millions of people in this country that understand what the criminal Fed is. And when they get together and they chant, "End the Fed," that's revolutionary, that's happening in our country. So when we say that nobody's coming to save you, that's where I kind of want to disagree and say, you know what, I think we can all save each other. And I think that maybe we're getting closer and closer to that tipping point, you know. And in James Wesley Rawls' interview that I wrote a piece about, he says that we are reaching the inevitable conclusion. And that inevitable conclusion, that inescapable fact, is that the constitutional republic will be restored. Because these criminals that you're talking about, you're right, they don't ultimately have the power. We have the power. Mm-hmm. And so I just like to think that there are good guys coming to save us, and those good guys are us.
I agree with you. The good guys are us. I'm a firm believer, and I keep hammering this quote because I think it's so important to the fun. Like, listen, what we're doing here is we're establishing the philosophy of the revolution, the intellectual foundation of the revolution. All this time that we're spending talking back and forth about this, it's really to help synthesize what people really feel and what we're working towards. It's not against this New World Order. It's not, you know, against the neocons or Zionism or whatever bad guy you want to put out there. It's really what we're for. You know, I did an article a long time ago called the Two Coming American Revolutions. And if you look at the two revolutions, both the American and the French Revolution, the American Revolution had an intellectual foundation that was simmering and brewing and built by men, you know, of degree and men of purpose, men of wealth, you know, the founding fathers. And they spent 10 years discussing what they're for, what kind of system that they should be, you know, establishing. You know, if you look in the debate about what the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and Declaration, these men were very thoughtful about what kind of world we're going to shape. Whereas the French Revolution really was against something and really wasn't for anybody. And when you're led into a collective revolution that is against something, inevitably it is taken over by you know, other psychopaths. And if you look at Robespierre and the Jacobins and the reign of terror that followed after that, I think it's very scary that is a possibility that we could get revolution in this country, you know, headed by the new Bolsheviks like Occupy Wall Street, who are against Wall Street, but really aren't for any real change. I mean, they want a strong government. They want taxes and regulations. And yet what you and I are talking about is about freedom and individual rights and responsibility. And that is an individual revolution against a collectivist problem. And this quote that I've been using is, in order to solve a problem, you have to have the opposite consciousness of that which created the problem. That was Albert Einstein. I messed it up, but you kind of get the point.
Sure.
And my point is, all the problems that we have, we cannot have the same consciousness as the ones that created it. So when I saw the Tea Party come up, great. I love Ron Paul, voted for the guy in 2008. He brought all these great issues. He catalyzed what I felt, you know, Constitution, honest money, non-intervention, you know, foreign policy, Ron Paul all the way. Great. But if you look at what we've done is we've created a collective. We had the Tea Party, and I wrote an article called Beware of the Patriot Pied Pipers, where any collective organization that we try to do, inevitably, some psychopath, some power-hungry person is going to take over that centralized force. And what I've been saying is that we can create our own paradigm, our own way of life, and do it on an individual level and not a collective. We don't need a Tea Party to do this. We don't need a constitutional anything. We need individuals to establish their own independence from the collective and work voluntarily with each other. There's a big difference between, you know, joining a group and having a leader as opposed to having independent people voluntarily working together. And I think that's what, you know, John Wesley Rawls and a lot of these other prepper things, they're not really forming communities, and it's something that I'm working on in the Sober Show report. We're finding individuals that resonate with an idea, and then together we're going to work together in establishing a new paradigm. So I don't know if I'm making the distinction different, but there are good guys. We are the good guys. We need to individually empower ourselves, walk away from the collective power that's in there now, reestablish our power, and then through that's where the real positive change is going to happen. And it's only going to be in pockets of this country, folks. It's not going to be like we're going to come in and liberate New York City from, you know, a 1984 nightmare that Bloomberg's going to put in. Parts of this country are going to embrace individual freedom, and parts are going to embrace collective slavery. if you're waiting for somebody to come save you, if you're waiting for ninjas or benevolent bankers or somebody to come save you, it's not going to happen, folks. Because I tell you what, the system's going to go down, and you're going to be sitting there without any food and guns and silver and the means of sustaining yourself. And what are you going to do? Wait for some ninja to come save you?
I would like it if ninjas would come and save us. I think that would be really cool. They should storm the...
It'd be easy. There's only, 1,000 guys out there that would have to go away. They go to jail.
That's my point. That's what I've been saying. I mean, they just need to be arrested, and everything could just be okay. We could do an Icelandic deal where we just arrest these people and we throw them in prison and we prosecute them, and this doesn't have to end so darn badly. So we don't necessarily need the ninjas, but it'd be nice to see some skilled military guys step up and make some arrests.
Well, then we'll have our fascist dictatorship. Listen, the problems start and stop with us. We're the ones we've been waiting for. We're the solution. We're the ones that are going to ultimately decide if we fail or succeed, and it's going to happen in your own personal life, your own family, your own friends, your own community. And if it means beat feet and getting out of urban areas and moving to places like Utah, do it.
Well, I think just to support that, we can see evidence of good guys doing good things in Utah. The governor signed House Bill 157, allowing people to make purchases with silver and gold, and he signed that bill, Chris, in a gun shop. I mean, it's just really compelling. If you want to talk about an image that has many subliminals in it, it's this state sovereignty, the states' rights sovereignty movement, which we're seeing happen in Utah, as really now 12 or 13 other states are going to model their behavior after what Utah is doing here. So I think that state sovereignty is another fantastic way for the good guys to stand up against this collectivist, tyrannical, federalist government. And it is scary.
Did you also see, Sean, that Utah is also suing the federal government to,
get lands back, public lands, right?
Yeah, get the land back. I mean, that's wonderful, and that's what I plan on seeing. I think we're going to have, we're going to have states that are going to get ahead of this curve. I mean, I think Utah is the farthest ahead of the curve right now. But there's other states out there who are moving to legal tender laws. But there's going to be states that are going to get their act together and establish their own power over their own lands. And the ones that get their act together the quickest are going to attract the best and brightest of this country. Much like how the United States used to attract the best and brightest from around the world, we're going to have a concentration of brain, talent, capital, in certain states, whether it's Utah, Montana, Wyoming, New Hampshire, South Carolina with their legal tender laws, somewhere in there it's going to be pockets where there's going to be a very fertile ground for individuals to come together, work voluntarily with each other, have a level playing field, and it's going to be a fertile one. And I tell you what, those places that get their act together the quickest are going to grow the fastest, and you watch what happens. It's going to be amazing.
Well, it will be amazing. I mean, liberty is an amazing thing. I mean, the country flourished before there was personal income tax with 8, 9, 10% growth throughout the 1800s. It wasn't until we had this oppressive Federal Reserve fiat banking system that in the income tax and the IRS was introduced that this country started to stall. And certainly we saw that after we went off the gold standard, and now we're into this debt bubble, which is really going to be the death knell in the republic. But the bottom line, Chris, to your point, is that liberty will prevail. You just feel strongly that what needs to happen first for all of the American people to wake up is for a crash to occur. I mean, a big crash. When this system crashes, which we both agree is mathematically inevitable, we don't know when it'll happen, but it will eventually happen. You think that kind of cleansing needs to happen, and people need to suffer in order to wake up. I'm worried that the suffering could get so bad that we really fall off a cliff.
Yeah, and I definitely think millions, if not billions, of people are going to die when this collapses. I'm not trying to paint a rosy picture that somehow this is going to be a wonderful thing that we should all be embracing. Many people are going to die. Too many people are dependent upon the system, and then even the ones that don't die, there's going to be such a huge disparity in wealth that's going to be taken from there that I think it's generationally going to affect people. But there is something that I do look forward to, and I think that the individuals who saw this coming and prepared for it, I think can be a blessing upon, their local communities, certainly their families, and certainly their friends. And that's something I want, the people who are listening to us and taking action, to be patient with the people who aren't listening right now. I know my biggest question I always get, how do I wake up my wife, my father, my kids, my boss? You feel bad because you see such opportunity, and how much pain that could be avoided if they just bought, a couple ounces of silver, 100, 1,000, 10,000 ounces of silver, or get some extra food and guns and stuff. I mean, it doesn't take all that much to provide a really firm buffer to a very hard reality.